please remember to leave a review on the podcast player that you are listening to us on. We really appreciate any of the reviews that you leave, and it helps us shoot up the charts. In fact, we made it into the Apple Podcast Top 200, which is kind of wild. So if you have left a review, thank you. If you haven't, please feel free to go out and do that. Yeah, we appreciate all of the love. On the show today, we got Shanna Goodwin of Apothic Tattoo down in Florida. She's a art history buff who focuses on tattooing and even has a degree in this stuff. And we talk about a whole bunch of tattoo-related history things, just kind of skim over it. I actually think that we need to probably dig a little bit deeper into this. So I'm inviting Shanna over to the Better Tattooing YouTube channel to see if she wants to join the science side of tattooing. Oh, yeah, my name is Ryan. I'm your host, and we've even got Brian on this episode. So it's like a two dudes type thing coming back at you. You can find me online at bettertattooing.com, and you can find Brian at a Tailored Fit Tattoo Gallery in Rogers, Arkansas, as well as Brian Matthew Tattoos and Brian Matthew Illustrations on Instagram and Facebook. We hope you like the show, and I apologize in advance for the audio recording issues that we had halfway through. I hope that it's not too garbled for you, but just stick with it. It'll make sense towards the end, especially when we have Brian read nihilism quotes. Anyways, we hope you enjoy the show, and thanks for listening. That's a fancy fucking shed.
Oh, thank you. I have my, it's a 100-year-old CNP letterpress machine that I make prints off of.
Oh, cool, dude.
His name is Donnie.
I know that's some antique shit when you've named it.
Well,
That's
it
cool.
was his original owner, which, like most letterpress guys I found out, are like all white-haired, bearded dudes that wear Canadian tuxedos. Like that's to do letterpress. So
Oh, that's cool, dude. Holy shit. Is that just a Florida thing, or is that anywhere?
anywhere I
Yeah.
found. Yeah, because this machine originally came from Chicago and made its way down to at least the last we knew who had it. Donnie was in Ocala, Florida.
Oh,
And
wow.
I have a friend that still teaches printmaking at University of Tampa, and she offered him to me under some things, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, man! I want
Right
that
shit." Right on, dude. So Brian has no idea what we're talking about.
Oh, cool. Kind of
That's
me
all right.
either, so.
He likes to wing it anyways, so I think it'll be cool. But I do have to say, why don't you introduce yourself, and I'll give my feedback about how fucking prepared you were, which is awesome.
So my name is Shanna Goodwin. I have a private studio in Wesley Chapel, Lutz area, just north of Tampa, Florida. I don't
What's your background?
Yeah, I was saying,
you got a unique space inside of tattooing here.
Yeah, so my background, I tattooed a little bit in my early 20s, but then ended up teaching. I got my master's in art history, specializing in medieval Islamic studies, and then taught college for a few years, realized that academia sucks ass, and went back to tattooing because I'm far too feral to go back into mainstream jobs. So that's pretty much where I'm at. But a lot of that art history is coming into play with my tattoo practice. So it makes me feel better that expensive piece of paper is actually doing something other than sitting there.
Right
So,
on.
yeah.
Wow. I thought it was interesting. I think I'd seen initially you had gotten, you got your head tattooed, and I was like, holy shit, because then
Yeah.
Who did that one for you again?
So that's Steve Oker at Moffin Tattoo Collective in St. Pete. They got a super rad shop as well. Great people.
I think I seen, yeah, that Stephen posted this and said something about you being an art historian. And I went, ding. So
Yep.
I just like fucking cold called you. I'm like, hey, do you want to talk?
I love that though. You're like,
Uh.
do you know anything about tattoo history? And I'm like, I like almost fell over in my chair. I'm like, oh, here we go, man. Here we go. Yeah.
Mm, that was kind of interesting. You know, when you see somebody who has an art history background, usually you're going to think about some strokey beard. You know, I'm only in the classicals. I stick on Renaissance stuff. I've been to the Louvre.
Right.
And it's
I
not
mean,
like tattoo
but
history. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I've been up.
That's cool. So, um, tell me a little bit about your studies going into this tattoo history. How did you get into like looking, examining, and kind of like teaching stuff about this field of art history?
Yeah. So, I mean, even I mean, I've always loved tattoos. I got my first tattoo. I actually dated it yesterday in 2003. I was like, all right, sweet. Shit's gonna turn into an antique soon.
Oh,
Um, but I got into art history specifically in my undergrad. And like, I always loved history, but I was like, this is too dry. It's, there's got to be more to this. Um, I have like a lot of fascination with the past. Again, we were speaking about like, where you've been, you can have a better idea of where you're going. Um, but it really started, I would say, in my master's program when I actively wanted to talk about tattoo art history, as part of my degree. And I was met with a lot of cynicism and rejection about it. Surprise.
yeah.
That shit don't matter.
Exactly. And I literally watched over the years, as I became a TA, and then as I became a professor, I was like, no, we're breaking these norms. I allowed people to write about tattoo art history. I'm like, as long as you're giving me a concise argument and some freaking evidence and you didn't rip that shit from the internet, then we're golden. Um, but it was really interesting to me to literally be in a class where we're talking about Wassily Kandinsky and his, non-objectivism, making art based off of music from Wagner and all of these. And this was, a complete change of the time, talking about all these artistic revolutions and how important they were. And yet, why is tattooing not a part of that? It is literally in the fabric of our humanity since we don't know how early. Yeah. But at the very least, one of the most ancient dudes, Otzi the,
Otzi the Iceman. Yeah.
He was found along the Altai Mountains, which is like modern. It's like Austro-Russian border, I believe. My geography sucks. But
Italian, Austro-Hungarian. Top edge, and it was like high the fuck up too. Like he wasn't like somewhere down at the ground and stuff. No, encased in fucking ice.
Exactly.
Hence the Iceman.
Ice in his early 50s. But he had an established tattoo tradition that had been performed on him. There a lot of the connections, and let's say feel free to use any of those photos from the PowerPoint.
And we're going to put a PowerPoint up in the show notes, a link to it on the Google Drive link. You can go ahead and take a peek. If you guys want to, go on back and start looking at these things, because if you haven't seen them before and you don't want to go down to the NCBI database and do some hunting, the actual images are really, really interesting.
Yeah, I took I'm not gonna lie, I love making PowerPoints. It's one of those weird teacher things, so I get real nerding out about it. But yeah, so they found out that he had tattoos along modern acupuncture meridian lines. So they were using tattoos for joint and pain relief. They would use obsidian to basically make an incision. There's a couple different types of ancient tattooing methods that I talk about in that presentation as well. Also going to plug in Archaeology Inc. on Instagram because they have an amazing yeah, amazing, a plethora of information on that sort of stuff. So it was established. It was already done. He was 50 something when he died. How long had this tradition been going on before that?
Well,
You
and how
know,
long ago was this? Do you remember roughly how many
yeah, so
years back?
50 around 5200 years ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah, a long time. So
Yeah.
this is like yeah, this is like the time when we have all of what we know of, just before these ancient civilizations, when people are just starting to kind of spread out and migrate different areas. And then you have ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, that start to come after that. And uh,
Like
literally,
3,000 years sooner than the Bible.
yes.
Or older, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And that's, yeah, these traditions, I mean, monotheistic traditions in general. And there's a point we bring up about like modern Christian beliefs versus like Christian tattooing in ancient times.
Yeah.
But I don't want to steer too far just yet, because that's I know you read the note a little bit. That's like a huge rabbit hole that you could go down. But, just basically saying like, we study all these cultures and things, and my biggest focus in school was cross-cultural interactions.
Mm-hmm.
It's the history is presented as very fragmented. Like, here's the Middle East, they're doing some shit. Here's the Far East, they're doing some shit. We don't know what Hawaii's doing. But it's all intrinsically linked. It is everyone's history, all of humanity's, and there are literal threads that continue as far as like societal belief, that are just as true in ancient Sasanian culture that are true today. So knowing these things, like, why are we still hung up like, oh, if you're all tattooed, you got your face tatted, I guess you don't ever want a real job again.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like, even going back through academia, because I did some anthropology and ethnography back in my undergrad, a lot of tattooing in general was lumped into mysticism.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually about it being a verified type of art. There was always some type of branch or bridge that was trying to move it into these different places. And it seemed to me like no one ever wanted to touch it. It's like, well, it's kind of like more mysticism, but they go, no, it's more like art history. Well, it's more like sociology, and there's like these other attachments. And no one was ever looking at it just as a core aspect of that, cultural interaction or something. So, I mean, what do you think? Is that, I'm not the art history major.
So, one of the best examples of these, kind of tracking those cross-cultural relations is in ancient Egypt, specifically in the New Kingdom. So that would have been the era of Cleopatra, the Ptolemaic dynasties, Mark Antony, as well as Tutankhamun. That's kind of the area we're in. So during that time, ancient Egypt took over ancient Nubia. And ancient Egyptians already had tattoo practices. And there was a discovery a couple years ago, within the last 5 to 10, if I'm remembering correctly, where they discovered old dynasty mummies that were tattooed. So now, initially, it was kind of like on the brink of the Middle and New Kingdom. Now we have that tradition even older. A lot of ancient Egyptian tattoos, like Otzi's, were a little bit more on like the geometric side, more pattern, kind of what would we think of, decoration. And the Nubians,
yeah, air quotes there. Yeah,
the Nubians were much more pictorial, so they had, images of objects that symbolize, these crazy meanings. And you can kind of akin this to how language and punctuation with the semicolon literally is now translated. Everybody knows the symbol and what it means, and it was translated into our contemporary context. So likewise, the Nubians started each of them are intermingling, and then you have imagery in New Kingdom, like with Amunet, she's a very famous, she's thought to be a priestess of Hathor. Hathor is basically the goddess of the pharaohs. She's like the mother goddess. So she has this beautiful neck piece, and it's the Wajiet eye. So this is basically incorporates the eye of Ra and Horus. It's a thing of protection, but also this relates very much to the idea of speaking for Egyptians. So basically, they have a couple creation myths, but one of them relates to Thoth, who is, basically the scribe. And once the words are spoken, there's a lot to deal with, kind of where that comes from, which is believed to be the heart itself. So the idea that they now, with this cross-cultural connection and influence, started to make these pictorial tattoos that are representing the ideals of their religion, but also are very aesthetically placed to be prominent, to be seen. So it becomes a visual signification of these many other things, but just as a evolutionary art form, it completely transforms the Egyptian tattooing industry at that point.
That's really neat. I ran off. I was like taking a question down here in my head.
Oh,
because I see sometimes that we go back through history, when places conquer or amalgamate or integrate existing societies into their own, they usually take two paths to try and either erase the identity of the individuals who are coming in by taking ownership of their ideas, thoughts, actions, things like this, or it's the new place is so hip it becomes cosmopolitan to copy them. And I'm wondering, like, is that possibly what was going on back then? Or all these things are starting to mix up. It's just like, hey, man, like we can be like them, or this is ours now. You can get fucked.
It's absolutely both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like something I was researching, there's a big dissonance between like what we classify as the Western world and how they think about tattoos, and more quote unquote Eastern, or I hate this word, but it's often an academic one, primitive or whatever, but basically non-Western. So in the West, you have civilizations leading from the Romans, who we absolutely know, during Christian persecutions, this is like, 1st and 2nd century CE. So after the birth of Christ, what have you,
monotheism.
Yeah. Monotheism's leaving out. Yeah, it was like Christmas, right? In July. So they would take tattoos and mark the Christians. This was something that was almost like a kind of psychological weapon, where the Romans, influenced from the Greeks, had a lot of prejudices against these other cultures like the Thracians, the Scythians, the Gauls, who used tattooing as a societal status, like a high societal status. So by taking something that is literally a piece of you and turning it into a designation of discrimination, of subservience, this is, I think, at least in theory, the kind of fear that has perpetuated over, into our contemporary culture. Greco-Roman society is kind of where we base American society off of. And the Greeks learned it from the Achaemenid Persians, and, or Sasanians and then Achaemenid Persians. That's about as far timeline as I've gotten. I'm sure it goes deeper, but kind of looking at this idea of either acceptance and kind of moving together to evolve a certain art form like the Egyptians and Nubians, versus turning it into this kind of weaponized thing. But that to me says that all of these cultures and the major people in them knew exactly the importance of tattoos.
Yeah.
Why would you even mess with it if it didn't mean anything? If it had no context to the art, the culture, the religion, why fucks with it?
Yeah. Was that ebb and flow of identification through certain things? If it's controlled by an individual or a group, they can be weaponized, right? Like the patches that the Jews were forced to wear. It was just like identification. And they used the symbol of what their faith and like history was.
Right.
Same thing. Slap it on them, and now it's become some totemic, like idea of just lowering you in status because of who you are, where you come from, or whatever. That's
exactly.
We just keep doing it, humans.
Right. Well, we still do it. We still do it today, and that's kind of thinking about it like you have older generations and they see somebody like me like head tattooed, and you get the questions of like, why would you do that to yourself? Or you'd be so pretty if you didn't have this. And it's like, I think that they're like that same fear of being categorized as a criminal and outcast is so deeply rooted in society that it's our grandmothers, grandfathers, mothers, fathers to act that way towards us. And it's very cyclical. Each time you see generations start becoming more independent, it's against that status quo. So it's like, hold on, we don't like change here, but sorry about your luck. It happens regardless. I found that out the hard way too. I get it. It sucks.
Yes, like East and Southeast Asia, right, where there's still the mentality that's slowly starting to be leached out, where you're only like Yakuza or Mafia or something else if you have tattoos, even though now it's generationally, like there's this huge uptick. Like in Japan, tattooing's finally legal.
Right. And that was what, a year ago, maybe?
Yeah, a year or two. Yeah, it wasn't very long ago. It was wild. Like people were like, oh, it was illegal to tattoo in Japan? Yes, it was. Yeah. The stringent regulations on that stuff. It's wild,
It's really, that part was interesting too, that just like so many people were so surprised about it.
Yeah.
When it's realistically like, that's something, our kind of conception of tattoos, everybody has a tattoo or a nose piercing. Almost there's a huge, like you said, uptick in people getting it. And also with the internet, you have more visibility. And I'll use air quotes again, transparency, but Maud living in North Dakota is like thinking about getting a little titty tatty. But is that appropriate for a 42-year-old woman? But seeing Rebecca in Vegas, like, woo, got titty tatties at 45, and I'm like, okay, like that's okay, it's acceptable because you're getting out of this bubble that is so limited. So I will say I do appreciate the internet for that. That's one of the few things I appreciate it for.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that we, like in the Western tattooing culture, we've identified and had to rationalize the value of it through other cultures, through this melting pot effect. And Japan had such a big influence on stuff. I think that people here have created a narrative about what actually happens over there that's more in line with what's happening here. So for that to be, misidentified or not understood, because like deep digging, like people don't like rabbit holes for the most part, that's why they listen to shows like this, and you can shove it down their fucking throats. Yes. Like this is some academic stuff, and I don't know, it seems weird to me that like we didn't know what was going on with this, but it also maybe is just kind of leads to that Americanized idea of like the folklore attached to people. Like we look at some of the people from way back when who were pioneers in this area, like could they fucking survive nowadays? Well, in our minds, who knows what the story is? Like maybe.
Right.
What? Like, I don't know, Brian, what do you think? Do you think that we could get like Paul Rogers could come back and fucking slay today?
I mean, realistically, yeah. I mean, so much of tattooing is still garbage right now. So yeah, And not only that, he'd probably be incredibly successful, like tattooing has gone through this weird thing where it, for some reason, now has a huge branch or sector of tattooing that looks worse than tattooing that was done 1,200 years ago. So anything's possible.
I forgot about that too. What are those called again? Or just like ignorant tattoos? Was that it?
Yeah, there's literally a style of tattooing called ignorant style.
Yeah.
It is exactly as described.
And that's on purpose, man. It's not like a sucky panther and it just blows up. And also I hope some archaeologists find sucky panther 2,000 years from now.
Fucking hilarious. Like, what were they thinking?
Yeah, that person to like preserve, like mummify themselves. I insist upon it.
It's also important to, always take a step back and realize that Edo period style tattooing and stuff like that, or stylized artwork, etc., still compared to today's tattooing destroys.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
Traditional Japanese tattooing is still the best. It's just, there's nothing better than that, man. It just looks amazing every time.
Well, and I mean, you have an absolute excellent point. So it's like, and this is a big thing that I saw, not just, with tattoo artists, but just artists in general. Me being on the side of art history, even though I also did art, I kind of like teetered, these different realms. And a lot of studio people, practicing artists be like, I just don't want to be like inhibited by the past, it like stifles my creativity. Like, You smell that? Smells like gas everywhere up in here. Because just like if you start tossing down like some now I'm just gonna blank on every tattoo artist that I ever follow, but you just like start copying people's stuff, or like even if you don't consciously like, I'm gonna steal this person's art, if you're not aware of what's going on now and what happened before, then you're gonna just work that much harder. So with traditional Japanese tattoos, they have literally got everything down to the flow and composition on a human form, which is something that as a visual artist working in both 2D and 3D, it is difficult to approach a human form and be like, I need repetition, unity, flow. How does that work when it's not a piece of paper where you can create that from scratch? You're having to use what's there, and everyone's different. Mm-hmm. So these kind of commonalities, the S curves, the figure eights, these elements, intense detail versus like larger backgrounds, these larger elements, it all fits perfectly because they have done it for centuries, thousands of years. So they're like, we got the formula, kids. It's right there. You don't need to bust your ass to try and figure it out. Just study the masters and be on your way.
Yeah.
It's my funniest thing to try to explain, especially to younger tattoo artists. Because like nowadays, if you talk to them, they're like, well, that's just culturally appropriative. And like, I don't even know anything about Japanese or so-and-so. So like, they're not even attempting to go learn or look into that shit. But like, no, stupid, just go look at it.
No.
Oh yeah. Yes. I'm gonna tell. I love when anybody brings up that term, cultural appropriation, because I'm like, firstly, you ain't special. Everybody been doing it since the dawn of man. But it's also like, yes, I do agree. If I am, I'm a white ginger chick in Florida. Like, I don't know the specific things that I believe to make truly traditional Japanese tattoos. Now, I can study them, how they do them, and then I can incorporate that with my own style, using that knowledge of flow and design layout to make what I do mo better. But yeah, they just we usually, and I'm not gonna lie, nobody at me, because don't act like everybody loved doing American traditional when they were an apprentice. I absolutely hated it. I thought it was, I was like, this seems kind of pointless. Like, I could do this in my sleep, whatever. But then when I really started digging into it, I was like, this is hard as shit for somebody like me who likes everything complicated with like 4-liners running, And I'm like, what do you mean I have to make something simple and I'm using 1-liner for like, this? So by diving into not just ancient, medieval, or whatever traditions, just even American traditional as an art form can help kind of steer you forward. So now it's a lot easier for me to do those sort of things, get those quicker designs in my way, but, much less detailed and clear.
Yeah, well, I think that's the other thing too, with the idea of appropriation / misappropriation, depending on which generation you're from. Like the idea behind that is that you're profiting, you're demeaning,
Right.
or you're subjecting someone to something for your benefit. So there's appreciation and appropriation, which sound a lot alike,
Right.
but there's a difference with it. If I say that I'm Japanese and I'm not, and I claim to be a Japanese tattooer for profit, and I do shitty work, I'm appropriating that culture.
Right.
If I say I'm a white dude, I really like, Japanese tattoos, I've studied them a bunch and I do them okay, you're doing honor and justice. If there is a certain level of gatekeeping that's going to go on because, culturally things are not supposed to be said or done, don't do them.
Right.
There's certain words we don't use. Don't use them. It's not that hard,
Right.
Clarification on that stuff. That fucking shit bothers me. Like, well, I grew up here. Now no, don't do that. That's just stupid. You're being dumb. Anyway.
Well, and even like on Japanese tattooing, when Japan opened its borders again in the like 1800s.
Yes, 1850s, 1860s, something like that.
Yeah. So like it had been hella closed off, not interacting much with the outside world, various reasons, won't go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, they had a port, one port that you could come into that like the Dutch were allowed. I think there's a funny story. The Americans came over on their steamer ships. We're like, we're Americans. What's up, motherfuckers? They're like,
right.
No, you fucking sit here. You can't walk around. There's people walking around with fucking swords and shit. And you're like, what the fuck? It's just like, doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Sorry.
Exactly. Oh no, you're good. I love it. Yeah, they're like, you shall not pass, bitches. So when they did that, like you have images from Vincent van Gogh, Matisse, all of Manet, like all of these who started copying these images because they're looking at ukiyo-e prints, images of the floating world. And they're like, holy shit, like this is what we've been looking for as impressionists, as fauvists, going beyond this norm, because the way that the Japanese and really non-Western art world developed was completely different aesthetically. Mm-hmm. And they had already reached ideas like multifaceted dimensions on a 2D surface hundreds of years ago. Yeah. And people like Vincent van Gogh are like, yes, bitch, like this is what I've been looking for. So, is Vincent van Gogh's image of cherry blossoms cultural appropriation? I would say no, because he didn't make shit when he was alive. But
the dude who has it hanging on his wall, that guy's a fucking prick. He's appropriative as all shit. He comes walking out in a kimono looking at it. I am happy with myself. Man, you motherfucker. Like that's wrong. Okay.
Correct.
Well, I mean, like the whole idea there, like if we go back in American history, we know that even with our tattooings and shit, we learned so much from Japan as far as tattooing went. Like we wouldn't even have gone that far in American traditional if it weren't for the Japanese.
Absolutely. There's a book I just lent to another artist in town. It's called Longfellow's Tattoos.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a I wouldn't say like academic read, but if you've
It's
ever
a snapshot in time.
right, if you've ever read anything from anybody writing in the 1800s, you'll know what I mean. But, it's this American, like, high society, corporate man, essentially, like, kind of at the time. And he made trips to Japan while, their borders were still closed and things, to get these full body suits. So there's definitely things coming up, even though we don't see this mass cross-cultural interaction like we do with Van Gogh, they're still there. They're still creeping through the woodwork, and the exchanges are being made.
Sorry, I don't mean to be eating. This is like the best podcasting material ever, is just fucking eating vegetables.
Yes. The kids like their ASMR, so.
This is me eating rutabaga.
Yes.
Inappropriate as shit. Anyways, being all healthy and shit. See what's going on. You are, Jenna, you're lagging like mad. Oh.
Wait.
Or was I lagging? Oh, there we go.
That's my usual state of existence. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. Brian's on the Starlink stuff, and his is surprisingly like awesome today. That's the
yeah, it's just good weather.
That's cool, man.
Give it an hour.
I inhaled rutabaga.
That's the appropriate way to do it.
I'm dying. Oh, there, I got it up. I'm like a fucking dog eating. Jesus Christ. That's good podcasting. Jesus Christ. Anyways. Fucking Carl's so awesome, dude. You're such a cool guy.
Random.
So
completely out of context. Oh, yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I just I'm always like every time we meet someone or I meet someone or whatever, I'm always just text them. I'm like, hey, I hope you're having a good day. And I do that to Carl every once in a while. He sent me a picture of the tattoo he did last night. And it was so fucking cool, man. Like this Batman, so new schooly, heavy color. I'm like, fuck, that's awesome, because he's apologizing for not answering me earlier. I'm like, what the dude, no, that's not how this stuff works. It's fucking glad you're doing awesome work. Carl's so good. carltattoo.com. Well, we lost Shanna, so we might as well just keep on fucking just bullshitting.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure why we were going on a Carl tangent.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just filling time, Yeah. Carl's just cool, man. I'm trying to get him to hop on with Gabe and have a talk about that fucking software. Sat down and did this demo yesterday, and it's really cool, dude. I mean, just for, heavy social media users everyone else out there except for me, just being able to do everything in one spot, all your Google leads, your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everything comes to one messaging inbox, and you can mass mail everyone if you want to. The text, you can schedule posts, you can do fucking tons of stuff, and if you have a cancellation, you can have a short list and you can email everyone with one email. First one gets it, hit me back.
I've had an app on my phone that does that, and I've had it on my phone for 2 years. I've never used it.
That's not a very good plug for a friend.
It's I wish I were more tech savvy, man, but I hate all of this so much.
Yeah.
I should have been born in 1858.
Yeah.
That would have been fantastic.
Just run around shooting people, owning slaves and stuff.
Do painting every once in a while. Get posted up as some type of fucking hero of American culture because I could paint better than a fucking 3-year-old.
Yeah. Kind of weird, I think. Yeah, this country in and of itself, like it goes through these sparks of innovation and then it just buries itself back in the ground due to like religious interference, you know. It doesn't make sense to me. We see things come up and we start like getting smarter and we start thinking about things more like cosmopolitanly and more globally, and then just fucking shoot it right back down at the ground like a scud. You know?
Everything becomes way too complicated, and everybody's like, "Nope,
Yeah.
go back to the beginning." There,
I don't want to think outside my individual space. That still should be absolutely fine to marry your cousins and sisters. I think it's that slim pickings.
well, that's
right
why
hard.
we get these. That's why we get these big comebacks, right? So, like here in 2020 something, whatever. Now everybody idolizes the 90s. You know, like
Yeah.
you get these big shifts to like, oh man, the 50s were so great. Oh man, the 80s were so great, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like we look back on it and we're like, oh, life was so simple then, because compared to now, life then was accomplished. They already did it. Everything is simple because we understand what everyone fucking did.
Yeah, and we also
We're sitting
don't have
right
to
here. We
create
have no
anything
idea
new.
what we're doing.
Yeah. And we also need to not innovate. You know, whenever we have these cyclic depressions, at least in a marketing mindset, like all we have to do is just pull out the same old garbage that worked before and pretend it's something new because there's been 3 generations. We don't remember what our grandparents thought was cool because we don't fucking talk to them. Stick them in a home and don't worry, you'll live out the rest of your days in blissful serenity. Being pushed downstairs.
Yeah. Fuck it.
Fuck it. You're not worth anything else in this capitalistic sense. Like, what the fuck? You can't work? Get fucked, man. I'll work to the day I die at 54. I guess she's gone. That works.
The universe was just like, nope, smited.
I'll try to rejoin. There we go. Roger that. Yeah. Every once in a while you get to a space where it's just like it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't work. Like Florida always seems just like a pit, you know, like the crocodiles have better reception than fucking, you know, half the people out there.
There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Fucking had a gator come out the canal and ate my Starlink.
It tripped over the fiber optic. You know.
Oh yeah, them fiber lines. We didn't even put them in the arc because they're just gonna blow down anyways in the Cat 4. So we just fucking lay them on the ground. They drive over them, be fine. Oh, that's panhandle
Yeah,
talk
so-
right there.
Can't do too much. Just a little hard on them tires, you know.
Florida has some really shitty roads, you know.
You know, which is funny because like a lot of people from Florida, or like I notice a lot of people traverse through Florida to Michigan or to Colorado, and places have fucked roads as well. And I'm
Oh yeah.
can we all do something about this shit?
Like Chicago.
Where the hell is someone going if they have to get through Florida to get to Colorado? Where are you coming from?
I guess Florida.
Well, like people from Colorado and Michigan move to Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, why? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just
Move
like
to one of those.
picturing that they're driving
Yeah.
all the way across the U.S.
They go
but
from
they
New
dip down
York.
into Florida.
Fucking
Yeah.
gotta go see Daytona Beach, the most famous beach in the world, and then fucking head back up and
Yeah.
over.
That's a good road trip. Let's find the shittiest road place. Go there.
Yeah. Was it? It's the
That's
95 on
specifically-
one side. I forget the other side. You could do that and you take the 4 across, like midline, and you go back up and it's all shit.
That's specifically
Yeah.
why
It's
NASA picked Cape Coral to shoot rockets, because nobody wanted to drive down to that motherfucker to interfere.
Canaveral. It's just like, fuck it. We got to put up a wall, though, in case some of them fucking crazy rednecks from up north in the panhandle want to come down and toast some burger buns on top of the engines. We'll come down with Jesus save signs every time a fucking thing
So,
takes
you
off.
know,
They're going to heaven, babies.
Sorry, not saying anything about.
they half five and G.
Yeah, fucking. Are you pulling 40 G's to see Jesus? These motherfuckers are.
Yes.
That's the best slogan we can possibly put on a bumper sticker. Pulling 40 G's to see Jesus.
I'm gonna write that down. That'll be a new shirt idea, right? Like we have the 6 block rock
Yeah.
star with Damon. I think that one's gonna work with this. Pulling 40 G's for Jesus. And it has to be FER because why not?
Yes. For,
I mean, a redneck
well, that's how
cowboy
we.
hat, you
Yeah.
know, in one of those
Panhandle.
Starlink rockets. Why wonder
Yeah.
we could do a caricature of George W. Bush sitting
This
in
is by
fucking
far the most educational podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyways, I opened up my text message. Shanna's like, all I seen was butthole, and I just started laughing my ass off there. All right. Pause break.
The internet.
Brian, like fucking Ink Master just emailed me. Have you guys been paid yet? No, it's been about a year.
Jesus.
It's been a minute.
No word of
Hell,
life.
we're gonna add interest onto this shit.
It's insane. Yeah, dude. Like legit. I've fucking 95 emails. I've sent them some emails like, hey, what's up with this stuff? You know? They're like, oh. Anyways. Ink Masters new season on Paramount Plus. You can go watch it now streaming. It's not good.
I just finished it, actually.
How was the end?
It's so unbelievably fucking predictable. The whole thing was just a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Like you knew everything that was gonna happen from the very
Yeah.
first episode. It was stupid.
They bring on 3 artists that are good and 9 that are shit. It's drama. You know? It's always 3, and then you like get to the last thing, and you know that like one of those 2 guys is way outclassing the other one. You should, and the one dude knows it too. He's like, "There's no fucking way I could beat this guy." That DJ Tam one, the season he was in, the guy he was up against, he was like, you could see him like, "You 2 get to do this," and the guy's like, "Man, fuck, I already lost." Like,
Yeah,
why am I
no,
even trying?
Right.
That's literally what they just did. They like halfway through or something like that, they brought all the original winners back onto the show, and you're like, "Oh, gee, guess who's gonna win?"
Right.
They have like 2 seasons with like an actual good artist. I
Right.
don't get it.
Like
Ugh.
I'm like, I get that Dave Navarro's childhood sucked. Mine did too. I can resonate with you, bro. But you don't gotta shit on people's tattoos when you don't know what you're fucking talking about. Okay?
He's got long COVID.
Well, you know.
Is that, I don't know if that has any pertinence here or not, but that happened.
One of the many ailments, I'm sure.
Yeah, that is making it into the podcast. That is not going to be cut out. Fucking, it's fine. It's that separation, right? We do need to look back in history to learn more. And this group of people who are running this show, they're attached to that. They have a couple people who are cool as the judges. One not so fucking much. We've talked at length about her. Not throwing too many stones, but like, why? What's the point of this? You know,
Right.
Like fucking Ami's on there, right? Brian,
Yeah.
he's one of the judges, and Nico. So like, all that they're doing is they're like, well, more business, you know, because it would be stupid not to go on a TV program and like gather more business,
Right.
you know. But do they fucking care?
Probably not. Well,
Doing realism this week, and it's like Nico's like, fuck. Traditional Japanese.
I'm curious, like how they choose the judges, not just like Ink Master, but like conventions and shit too. And it's either like, oh, we like brought this person in, or they're like walking around like, oh, you haven't tattooed today. You want to judge some shit?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I've judged quite a few tattoo conventions,
like-
and I swear they just picked me
Yeah.
because I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
They're like, you're just gonna say whatever
Like-
the fuck you want. Go be a judge.
I've judged a lot, but I'm always trying to be honest and nice and like, this is how you can actually improve your tattoo. Look, you see this area where this is like this. This is because you did this, and if you do it like this, it's gonna be better. And people don't like me, so I pick like the fundamental tattoos.
Like intrinsically with not wanting to know history, nobody wants constructive criticism. They just see it as a criticism, regardless constructive or not.
Yeah, that's why I don't give constructive criticism a lot of times. I just give criticism.
We talked about that with Tony Farah Tattoos on Instagram. We talked about him because he went on and he just was just being a fucking prick on my Instagram. I'm like, this guy's awesome. Come on the show. He's all, what? Sure, fuck it, man. He's a super nice guy, you know. He's just, you got to imagine if you're accustomed to giving the constructive criticism for so long and getting kicked in the teeth every time that you decide to try to help someone, that you're going to stop. And most people do that. I don't, because I'm like one of those hamsters that just is broken, and it keeps hitting the electrified feeler bar, thinking that's going to get freed out until it kills itself.
Right. You're the one. You're going for the what was it, like the pleasure button versus the food button?
I'm just like, yeah. I'm beating both of them off. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Sorry, Brian. Let's face it. You see, just your eyes get more squinty. You're like, what the fuck are you saying, Ryan? That's fine. That was a good detour. Back from the break on the show again. We won't go there. That's just horrible. I'll do that drive time announcer 5 fucking voice in the shop every once in a while. And everyone's just like, ugh. Same with my gay Southern Baptist preacher, which people hate, because
gay Southern Baptist preacher.
Yes, honey, it's fine. Praise Jesus. Everything's fantastic. Look at his legs. That's just.
For days.
He put it up so you could bring it down and bring it back up, because that's what happened with Jesus. I did an entire sermon for 5.5 hours once in the shop. It just fell into the character and it flowed nice. I was tattooed a couple who flew in from Atlanta. They were fucking dying. It was awesome. Everyone else in the shop was very uncomfortable. So
there's no cultural appropriation going on here, but we're going to offend everyone.
Yeah, if you're from the South, well, no, we love you. We're just making fun of a couple of you. That's all. Making fun with, not of. How's that?
Laughing with you.
If you can't make fun of yourself, then there's something wrong. Yeah. All right, our rep is taking care of all of the payment stuff finally, so we're good. Anyways, let's get back to the topic at hand. Let's go back in time. So, okay, here we go. When if we're gonna go back, we kept talking about how things tend to have some type of religious or cultural like some connectiveness through the idea of identity inside of a person, or a group of people or a region or whatever starts to occur. When did the shift start taking place? When we start seeing that people are going out to get tattoos just because they thought they were cool.
Right. Yeah. This is one of my clients brought this up recently too. Like when was that a point? To be like, yeah, I just want a Sucky Panther on my arm, or some, like it's St. Patrick's Day, which I have a little thing for there, little clover, whatever. Like what kind of incited that? That's one I'm not totally sure, because that's more or this is more contemporary. But I mean, just from my perspective, definitely I would say starting probably around like Renaissance period, because you start to see I remember seeing this was a little bit after that. It was 1800s France, and there's this beautiful back piece that was just the pinnacle of Art Nouveau, Art Deco, of shit that neo-traditional, what we classify now, turns into. And it's like these are things that people, at least American tattooers, I feel look back and oh no, there's just simple shit or geometric or whatever, but there's this crazy cool connection to earlier tattooers and people, or Longfellow, he's these Japanese tats look sick, I need this kind of thing. But I don't know maybe what you guys think about your experience as far as like people just and where they are like, yeah, let's.
Some of the earliest
we're
known
done.
stuff I remember hearing about was the bourgeoisie or the upper crust people, like through the Reformation time forward. Once there was like that fracturing, that was going to happen in Europe, at least in the Western world, it was a sign of like elitism, where you could do something like this, and it wasn't usually going to be in not too much in the open, to be very controlled, and it was actually like more feminine dominated, from what I remember as well. It was like a sign of like augmenting or accenting your beauty as a person. And not only would you need to have the money to have that status to be able to hold it, but also afford it, because there wasn't a lot of people around doing it right then. You had to be able to go somewhere and get it done. So I'm thinking like 1600s is some of the first things I remember hearing about that. But this is that cyclic nature every time, right? Where we start seeing growth, there's fracturing inside of society. It loses interest because there's a loss of identity, reamalgamation of whatever type of cultural stuff is going on. You get a new form of identity. People start to identify with it. So, how about you, Brian?
I was thinking about, okay, I have zero idea of how accurate any of this is, but I worked for a guy whose dad happened to be the chief of whatever native tribe was in the area. It's like Blackfoot or Cherokee or something like that, etc. Anyway, we're all drunk as shit one night, and he starts kind of elaborating on this story of the quote unquote first tattoo. And it boiled down to this Native American guy out on a hunt, etc. A tree gets hit by lightning, and the guy bumps up against the tree, and it accidentally pokes him. So the charred branch or whatever it is just jabs into him and leaves a black mark. When he goes back, everyone there's like, "That's really cool," like blah blah blah. A mark from the god, whatever. And the guy's pointing,
Starlink. Let's just get to the good point. Every time Brian has something awesome to say, Elon Musk comes around and just puts his hand right up his ass. Jesus Christ. Fuck you, Elon Musk. Anyone who does short stock selling that fucking listens to this show, just short that motherfucker to oblivion. I don't know.
Where'd I lose you?
Okay.
That was from the gods. It was ool. And then
did get the cool.
Well, the point is that so like the incident happened, and then they started to replicate it. Like they had, key ingredients there: pokey thing, charcoal, human skin, and that's where the process was born.
Yeah, that's probably what it all comes back down to. Somebody tripped and fell on something or poked into something. It's just like, oh shit, that didn't go away. Oh no, am I possessed by an evil spirit? And then all of a sudden they found some food, and they're like, this must be good luck. Let's do it.
It immediately goes to that idea that like, this is fascinating and cool, so let's do it.
Yeah.
Like tattooing basically started because tattooing is fucking cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's just the grand takeaway.
Yeah. And I mean, Brian, like you were saying too, like those ebbs and flows, like all throughout history, you have times where it's done by the upper crust. It's done by the lower crust. It switches, seesaws back and forth. But that's an excellent point about just, people kind of remove themselves so much from, people of the past. I know we were talking about like one thing that really did it for me was seeing a drawing from Leonardo da Vinci that, like a monk where little like cat paw prints were left on a manuscript page. Like we're not so different from, thousands of years of people before us.
No.
Otzi was probably like, my fucking back hurts and this looks sick. Let's do it. Like just literally that desire of this looks cool, something I want drives the tattooing to be placed into these like more complex contexts of religion or spiritualism or what have you.
No. I think it'd be cool if the fucking tattoos were just like, put pin here, put pressure here. You know, it's like anyone can do this. You see that, Mark? You see the one with the 3 lines? Put 3 fingers there and push real hard. Like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Oh, yeah, fucking thanks, guy. Maybe it had more spiritual meaning. I don't know. It's funny. We always look back, especially like in patrilineal patriarchy society, and we see things like this great common divide. I'm wondering, it seems like matrilineal societies, at least in like my experience, seeing and reading about, you know, tattoo culture and stuff, things seem to be more consistent, more prevalent throughout the masses. Do you have any history knowledge on like just like women in tattooing, or, you know, women in power in tattooing?
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorite works of art in general is the Venus of Holly Fells. She is she's kind of like the Venus of Willendorf, which is a little more well known, but it's a very small clay figurine, and she has, you know, giant titties, and she's, you know, making cake at the bakery, big hips, everything, teeny tiny little head. But there's a lot of discussion about the markings that are on this small figurine. There's a significant amount of lines that traverse the breasts as well as like the stomach and uterine area, but also like, you know, upper arms and hips. So there was some theories, you know, back in the day, like I said, a crusty monocled white guy with his pipe talking about all the art that being like, oh, it must have been body hair. But, you know, realistically, like more recent scholars have started to think this could be tattooing. And this is the, I am not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly because I never really could, but it's the Aurignacian period. So this is the Upper Paleolithic period.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, this would have been around 35,000 BCE that the Venus of Holly Fells was made.
So, a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
And then in later traditions of ancient Egyptian tattoo, more often than not, the tattooers were women, and the people getting tattooed were also women. You have different figures like Amunet or these others that have similar lines along the uterus and stomach, which, you know, to us kind of seem just geometric or very simple, but it also, like when the uterus would start to, you know, fill up with a baby, I don't know how that, the proper terms for
gestation
that. Gestation
advances. Yeah.
Right. It does a thing and then baby forms. Right. Yeah. So, but as
when them fucking things happen.
Right. As the body grows, like the tattoos would literally form like a protective, and they would have an image of Bess, who looks like the most adorable little goblin / gremlin, don't feed him after midnight kind of guy. And they would have them tattooed on the inside of their thighs, right next to the birth canal. So again, you know, male archaeologists are like, they must have been solicitous dancers or such. And it's like, well, actually, this was something that, you know, was used to like help through childbirth. Again, I've never experienced it, but I saw a very terrible video when I was in elementary school, and I was like, nope, scarred me for life. We're good. But it's a even today. So, but I actually had I was going down another rabbit hole last night, and I discovered something that just absolutely amazed me. And this is why I always say researching, because this is how you get to know things. Like in today's tattoo culture, women tattooers are starting to come up in in the like 40s to 60s, you have in the 40s, tattooing is trying to be made illegal in many different states, major cities, things like that. You have the Korean War, the Vietnam War. Women are starting to get into the workforce, get out of the house. They're gaining independence and becoming more individuals. And because of that, they started to get tattooed. I started seeing kind of this just link of, when like the societal climate promotes individuality of the previous constantly. So there's one woman that I read about, Ruth Martin, who is still alive. She lives in Germany somewhere. But she started tattooing, and she was actually one of the few of either male or female tattooers that went to art school at the time. She did this in the 60s. And she was promoting like a safe environment for females to get tattooed. Like as a female, even before I was a tattooer, going into a shop and there's, you have your music blaring and like there's a bunch of large dudes everywhere and you're like, I gotta show my butt. It can be a little unnerving or whatever. But this is a big conversation in tattoo circles that like a lot of women that I talk to discuss. And, these are things that, again, have already been done. The people are building off of these. But one of the major things that Ruth Martin did was she actually, I think it was the 10th Biennale, but
we're losing you again.
Are basically, you have a big one in Paris, but it's kind of like the pinnacle of artists, like contemporary artists at that time.
So you're breaking up real bad there for a second. Was she breaking up for you, Brian, or no?
Oh yeah, but I just assumed it was my internet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's cool. Yeah, it's
right.
Really stuttery. It's okay. I can hodgepodge stuff together pretty well. But if there's like a 3-second break, I can't do that. I don't want you getting too far into that. I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize. So.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. Let me know if it's not coming through. All right.
Yeah. For some odd reason with you sitting, I guess, closer, it's fine now. I don't know what the fuck.
I just noticed that too. I was like, well, it's working great now.
Your body is a conduit for whatever RFID chip they've put into you. Tinfoil hat time. I don't fucking know. So yeah, Ruth.
Yeah, I left mine in the house. All right.
Ruth tattooing, and I remember I heard that, and then looking back, we can.
Right. So so Ruth, she tattooed at a Biennale in Paris. So a Biennale is just kind of like the pinnacle of contemporary, visual artists at the time. I know everyone remembers it's similar is Basel in Miami. That's kind of the equivalent of a Biennale, and the last one, I'm sure everybody remembers the duct tape banana classic. But she actually tattooed at this Biennale in Paris. And that to me was like revolutionary, because I've always thought like, why aren't pictures of Weiss hanging in the Hermitage or museums, things like this, like elevating the art of tattooing to quote unquote fine art, which is only defined by some group of people. But if you say enough people are like, no, this is art and it deserves to be in this milieu, just like she did, she's was already kind of laying the groundwork for that, which I found just incredible to be tattooing alongside of some of the major artists in the world at the time.
Yeah, maybe it's just because they can't buy them. You know, the person who's wearing the tattoo. Like if a rich person, I don't know, a Russian oligarch comes in and spends, $120 million buying someone, I think that might be frowned upon in today's culture.
It's not that you can't buy them; it's that you can't launder money through your
Only small amounts. Only small amounts, yes. Right? We're not talking about locking up a bunch of people in a free port. That'd actually be a really cool tattoo shop. Set it up in a free port. Fuck taxes. Just you want to house your art behind me? That's fine. Storage space, 10 grand a month.
World Famous already did that in partnership with Virgin Cruise Lines, right? Because they tattoo in international waters.
That's interesting. World Famous does that? I've never heard of that. Really?
Yeah, Virgin Cruises, man. They all have tattoo shops on them now.
I don't know. That just seems.
I was gonna go work on one for a little bit, and I hate the ocean, so it wasn't a good fit.
That's just. I don't know. I'd need a month to unpack my feelings on that, but I don't like it. That's just. I don't know. That's wrong. It's like the people doing the 0G flights and they get a tattoo on the way down. It's just like, why are you doing that? I'm the first one. You didn't need to do it though. Just jump in the air and do a line. There, you're doing 0Gs, you fuckwit. I don't know. That's just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's my argument on this, I guess. Ugh. Well, I don't know why it's bothering me so much. It's just like it's a boat, but also happened forever, Yeah, it's pirates used to fucking do, or people were stuck on a fucking ship for goddamn a year. Might as well just sit there and mark each other up. Might as well.
I've been thinking about just trying to come up with the most hilarious scenario to give me a reason to tattoo in a hilarious position. But go hold a seance out in the forest in the middle of the goddamn night and do some tattoos.
I know,
just some crazy nonsense. And
I know a guy.
It's such a gimmicky, stupid fucking thing.
He's in San Francisco.
Right. Yes.
It's a lot. It's like more than $1,000 an hour for the experience.
So that's what I'm saying, though. You can charge people so much money just to do something stupid.
One of those wing walkers, like the stunt planes, the pilots, they stand up on top of them. Just get two people and fucking doing loop-de-loops. Just fucking.
We got the portables now. We can do it.
You can fucking do that. Shoot them out of a cannon midair before you hit the net. You're like, smiley face. We got battery-powered shit. Fuck it. Might as well. Be okay. No one do that. If you do that, TM. We fucking came up with that idea first. So you gotta tell us.
Yeah.
It's just stuck on that Red Bull.
Extreme Inc. coming to you. Monster Truck Jam.
They just shoot a tattoo machine out of a cannon.
Oh God. Let's see. This is where I think we're heading. I think this is where we're heading.
Well, we're gonna have to. That's the whole point, right? So we're already in this position where tattooing is so widely available that it's become boring.
Yeah.
So in due time, we're just gonna think of the most outrageous possible shit we can with this until finally everyone is completely desensitized to it and it goes away for 20 years.
Yeah, that's what happened with the French bourgeoisie class or even the English class. Like the Queen had tattoos. It was Victoria or Catherine or something. Mm-hmm. And it became this elitist thing. And then when everyone else started to mimic them and copy them, then the commoners would do it. The rich people get fucked. We're not doing this anymore. And then it fell out of favor. And then no one did it. And then everyone stopped for 20, 50 years and fucking came back around again. So at least we're only looking or coming out of it now from the biker haze. So, I mean, there's only one way but up. It's like no one wants to be Gary from Gary, Indiana on his hog anymore. You're just kind of looking at that guy going, well, you're problematic. So I guess we're in a Renaissance period now. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's especially given our current whatever culture stuff. I imagine if we can't read books or say what we want to say, pretty soon you won't be able to get a fucking tattoo if you're looking down south, right?
That's true.
I look back that. Ryan, when we started tattooing, if you're above the Mason-Dixon line, tattooing was fucking fine, especially big urban areas, right? And as soon as you move into the country, you head down south, people were just like, no, that's bad. Jesus doesn't
Yeah.
want you to mark your body. And it's weird, you know. I'm wondering what that would, what was the catalyst with that stuff? Like in your experience, you're from the, you know, the South, I'm guessing. So like, what did you see when you were doing that? You got your first tattoo 2003.
2003. So yeah, like I would go to Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, and be in like schmushy, fancy restaurant. People were wearing mink shit, and I'm like, gross. But there's like waiters with full sleeves, and I was there, like I had specifically dressed up to cover everything, so I wasn't like the weirdo out of the group or something. But definitely in the South. Was it originally from Missouri, which is still the South? That's just some Ozark shit, mountain people. It's a whole thing. And then
that's
Georgia,
for sure.
That's what Brian said.
If you see anything hanging in the trees, walk the other way. Go back the way you came. Don't go there. But I remember I worked at Pizza Hut for a little while after I had left the last shop I would work in until later after my teaching career. And I had to learn how to get people to notice me as a person versus my tattoos, which is really funny to me now because, there was a big time when, and I still think this is true today, where there's also a shift of people getting tattoos because it has to mean something. And I remember getting tattoos like I have this, that's not, wrong arm. It's a Rene Magritte painting, and it's called Ceci n'est pas une pipe. And it just means this is not a pipe. It's a painting of a pipe. So I just took it a step further, tattoo of a painting of a pipe, just because I like the concept and it's funny to me. And people are like, but why? I'm like, because I like it, but like that sort of, if you had tattoos in the South, they had to have a meaning of deep significance to be justifiable. But I'm like interviewing at this Pizza Hut place, and I learned to like stare people in their eyes because you do that, they're looking less elsewhere. Either that or they won't look at you because it makes them uncomfortable. So one of my hiring manager was maybe like a month in, I started like relaxing a little bit and allowing more of my tattoos to show. But she came into the back room one day and she's like, I didn't realize you had that many tattoos. And I was like, yeah, they're there. And she was like, honestly, like I probably wouldn't have hired you, but like I'm really glad you did. And I ended up being a manager there. And I'm like, but it was almost like, again, that same kind of thought of like people who get tattooed are criminals, military that have been traveling. You don't immediately fit into these, the military category. You must be like criminal or disenfranchised or, something like that. When it's like, actually, I'm way better than, Bob over here who has no tatties and is smoking crystal meth in the cooler. So like
it's actually like it's such a perverted thought process to assume that you have to vocalize an existentialism for your tattoo, while even the idea that I got it because I liked it is incredibly existential, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were to look at it on an actual philosophical level, because I liked it can define so fucking much more about you than whatever bastardized bullshit reason it is that somebody else can come up with.
We get some
Exactly.
Nietzschean philosophy in there, right? Yeah. Let's
Love
just that's what the final skit on this should be. We should read old philosophers' takes, but only the nihilists, and see how much that applies to tattooing.
I'm gonna go the nihilist honey badger route.
What? Nihilist honey badger.
Yeah, honey badgers are nihilists as fuck.
I don't give a fuck.
About or themselves. They're going.
All right. Maybe I'll share screen here. What I'm thinking is I just pulled up a web page. I'm not going to source them because I don't know if it's legit or not. But we've got some pretty cool ones on here. I see some Nietzsche, Shakespeare. I didn't know he was a nihilist. Camus. This will be fun. So
man, there's a whole tinfoil hat project when you get into Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I first time I read one of his things, I was like, this guy was just high. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Well, there's a whole conspiracy that Shakespeare wasn't a single person; it was a collective of people.
Yeah. Which is fine. I just fucking that collective of people is silly. I know like they invented hundreds or thousands of words that we now use in our lexicon. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
I do think I mean Shakespeare himself, like you can go to his supposed house, like whatever, see all the things, but I definitely think he might have been one person, but he's kind of like a George R.R. Martin. He's like, let me look back in history and like pull some shit. Because you watch Game of Thrones, people are like, oh my God, it was so violent. And I'm like, have you read on the Middle Ages, bitches?
Have you read the Bible?
Exactly.
All right, cool. So I got the quotes up here, Brian. I think that you should take the first one here. I think that this is amazing, and it fits you.
I can't read that shit. That's like
because
2 millimeters.
Well, zoom. Can you zoom? Here, let me zoom for you.
The app's called Zoom, but I cannot zoom. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, this is just me consciously speaking.
Yes,
everything in the world displeases me. Above all my displeasure, and everything displeases me.
Tell me you're a human cat without telling me you're a human cat.
But it's just tattooing in general, right? You're never, ever, ever happy. You're never. As soon as you nail a tattoo, that's so fleeting. Just for a moment, you're like, well, I could do better next time. I think that tattooing, nihilism are intrinsically linked. It's just, it's the web of life.
It's just life in general. It's nihilism.
All right, Shanna, why don't you take number 2 there?
Right. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Exactly. This is we've gone to memes to describe Brian. This is Brian's nihilism corner.
This is all shit I've said before.
Yes.
Actually, yeah. So Camus, here we go. Nobody realizes that some people expend tremendous energy merely to be normal.
God. I feel personally attacked.
Just because I was diagnosed autistic doesn't mean you have a right to personally attack me.
All right, Brian. We'll each do one more. Why don't you do number 4? Because I think that this is you, my friend.
I love this. It's so like, what are you looking for? There is no truth. There's only action. Action obeying a million different impulses. Ephemeral action. Action subjected to every possible and imaginable contingency and contradiction. Life is crime, theft, jealousy, hunger, lies, disgust, stupidity, sickness, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, piles of corpses. What can you do about it, my poor friend? I swear to God, I have said that in conversation.
I am absolutely positive you've told me that at least 4 times. And you followed up with, what can you do?
What can you do?
But that's just the reality of it. It's so good.
The fact that it's like stupidity, volcanic eruptions, piles of corpses, like amazing.
Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Why don't you take this one, Shanna?
Nietzsche.
Yeah.
The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently.
Ooh, man,
That's
that's a good one. We can take that and apply it right to our social media landscape right now. Meritocracy is dead, folks. Just because you think that you can do something better, because you like someone who is better than you, does not make you better. Ooh.
Right.
Actually, I don't want to take this.
Number 8. So
yeah, I know.
much.
I want you to read that one, Brian, because I'm going to grab one last one after this, but or maybe we can each run one more. But I want to take a consequentialist standpoint. We'll go into philosophy. I know we talked about art history today, but this is so Brian. I think that we've just got to go with this. What you taking, dude?
You know, the sad part about this, before I read through this, right? Anyone that has spent their entire childhood consuming Calvin and Hobbes and anything by Bill Watterson will immediately realize that everything that we're reading right now is a Calvin and Hobbes comic strip, and that Bill Watterson is the grandest nihilist to ever walk the planet.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
All right. I think human consciousness is a tragic misstep in evolution. We became too self-aware. Nature created an aspect of nature separate from itself. We are creatures that should not exist by natural law. We are things that labor under the illusion of having self, an assertion of sensory experience and feeling, programmed with total assurance that we are each somebody, when in fact everybody is nobody. Maybe the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming, stop reproducing, walk hand in hand into extinction one last midnight. Brothers and sisters opting out of raw deal.
Printing that, it's getting laminated and going up.
Everyone should have this in their shop.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to take a picture of this. Actually, this is another t-shirt idea. It's from an unknown, so we can TM this. I actually think that this is Brian.
It probably was.
We know who it is.
That was probably a Facebook post.
I'm literally taking a picture of this shit. This is so silly. All right. Actually, I don't even know if we should end any further than that. I think that's the best way. Maybe there's one more that I can do one more. No.
Oh.
I don't want to read this, Brian. I'll take the one underneath it because I love John Dewey, right? He's a pragmatist, and I deal with pragmatists. He's not actually a nihilist, so I can handle that one. But I don't know why I'm enjoying Brian read all of this negative shit. I think it's fantastic.
I think this is genius.
I
think that's the best part about it, is that like this shit is so good.
There's one more
God is dead. But
Yeah.
given the way of men, there may still be caves for thousands of years in which his shadow will be shown. And we still have to vanquish his shadow too.
All right, last one. Here we go. No system has ever as yet existed which did not in some form evolve the exploitation of some human beings for the advantage of others. That's tattooing in and of itself. Indeed. Man.
I'm just saying, it's not that any of this is technically negative. It's that it's all incredibly intelligent.
Yes. Well, and insightful. Like, my biggest things with the internet is that everybody thinks they're special. Susan over there, is like, I fed my dog today and then went to Target. Bitch, nobody cares. The best thing that I can hope for is that, like I said, somebody digs up somebody that I tattooed a couple thousand years from now and is like, that's cool. And wherever I might be, whether it's a tree pot or body farm, golfing on Mars, I don't fucking know. I'll be like, hey, but like just that idea of like, you need to respect what comes before. You ain't so super special that you're above any of it.
The sad part about that is 200 years and not from now, when they start digging up people, right? the only thing they're going to do is gather around in groups and go, look at these idiots that worship groups of birds and flowers.
Right.
Like all of these stupid fucking dandelion things that poof into birds.
Yeah. My favorite would be when they're like, there was this weird ancient tradition that had something to do with the number 13. They would put it on toilet paper, on cars, like these designs. This 13 has significance, and we're just like, man, no, it don't.
I'm still gonna get my final communion.
Yeah. Go for it.
Say what you want.
As long as they're the large oyster crackers and not the mini ones, like, don't skip me on Jesus's body, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna do an Irish final communion where they give me some salt fish and a shot of fucking whiskey.
It's briny.
This is our generic outro track. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Remember, please go give us a like, subscribe, review on any of the podcast players or platforms that you enjoy listening to us on. And thanks. Thanks for listening to the show. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you again next week.